Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my podcast. Today's podcast is titled First They Judge, Then They Copy. If you are somebody who is authentic, you are original, and you remain true to yourself, you will be judged because that's what comes with the territory of not conforming. When you refuse to conform, when you defy social norms, people will look at you different. Because we live in a world where people think that you have to follow these imaginary rules to be happy or successful, and really you don't. You just have to create your own rules in life and figure out what aligns with you, but most people want to conform because it's easier. They don't have to do as much work, they don't have to be as much aware. But when you are original and you are authentic, that took awareness. It took awareness for you to get to that point to know yourself so that you could decide that, hey, this is me and this is not me. A lot of people don't get to that point in life. So when you get to a point where you're securing yourself and you know yourself and you have all these beautiful interests and hobbies and you're growing and you have your talents and you just have this knowing of yourself, people will judge you because they don't know themselves. And the kicker is that people will judge you for the very same things that they're going to copy. They will judge you for the very same things that they are curious about. They will judge you for the very same thing that they're doing behind closed doors, okay? So let me get into the first story. So this story took place when I was in high school years ago. And this is something that didn't happen to me, but I seen it happen to another person. So this girl came into the classroom and she had on some all white shoes. So they were not name brand. They didn't have like a logo or anything on them. And where I come from, like back in the day when I was in high school, if you didn't wear name brand shoes and clothes and jackets, like people talked about you badly. So they talked about her. It was a group of girls talking about her and laughing at her shoes. But the interesting thing about the shoes is that they light up. That's why they were all white. That's why they had that kind of look and that kind of texture to it, because it was a shoe that was supposed to light up. And it was very popular years ago, like around the years 2015, 2016. It was very popular. So she was the first one in the school to have some light up shoes, right? Tell me why 1 week later, okay, the same girl that was talking about her for those shoes, she bought the exact same shoes, right? And then the people around her started wearing them too. So it's like she started a whole trend by being true to herself and people judged her. And then they turned around and did the same thing. And then they actually befriended her as well. So this is the thing. People will judge you and then turn around and do the exact same thing as you because they wanted to do it in the first place. They was just too scared. Sometimes people are so afraid of being judged, but they're the most judgmental, and I don't get that. They don't wanna be judged, so they wait till somebody else do it, and then they'll judge you and then turn around and do it too. Crazy, right? Alright, story number 2. So, as you all know, I have my septum pierced, right? I've been into septum piercing since I was a freshman in high school. So I am 23 years old, going on 24. So I've always loved septums. And before I got my septum pierced, I got my septum pierced when I was like 20. Yeah, I was about 20, 21, and I got my septum pierced for real. But before that, I will always wear like the fake ones. And I remember that I would always buy a whole bunch of them. And when I was growing up, you know, the caregiver that I was raised by, she would violate my boundaries. And one day she went in my room and she got a septum and didn't tell me, but I seen her wearing it when I got out of school. And mind you, she judged me for it. She said, "You look like a bull with that. That's ugly. That's not cute." She told me that to my face. And then she snuck in my room and got it. And then I seen her with it on. And then she took it out her nose and was like, because it was the fake one. She was like, "Here, I didn't want it anyway." Yes, you did, because you sat here and judged me, but then turn around and put it in your nose because you knew it was cute. Like, that's the thing. People will know that something that you're doing is of value, or they like it too, or they resonate with it on some level, but for some reason, they want to judge you. Tragic. Anyways, let's go to story 3. So this happened to me as well, right? So I still do wear a lot of head wraps, but not as much. But when I was younger and when I really got into it, man, when I tell you I would turn so much into head wraps, like I loved head wraps. Like I was, Miss Erica Badu, Miss Lauren Hill. Like somebody actually would call me that too. Like, I was into that energy because I loved head wraps so much, and I was wearing one, and then my cousin was, like, making fun of me. One of my female cousins, she was making fun of me, and it was a particular head wrap I was wearing that she stole. She never gave it back. So I consider that stealing because you said you were gonna give it back and you never did. She kept my head wrap, but the same head wrap that she asked me to wear is the one she judged me for wearing and never gave it back and kept it. So the moral of all these stories is be yourself regardless of who's going to judge you because people will have something to say, especially when they're insecure and they can't step outside of the box, especially when they're basic. I'm just being honest, basic. They're not extraordinary because they're conforming to social norms and sticking to, well, society says I have to be this, so I'm going to be that. But when you are outside of the box and you're yourself, that's when you trigger people the most. But it's okay because they should be being themselves. And that's on them if they don't want to. It's not your job to convince people of that. It's just your job to be yourself so that you can operate in a way where you can attract your desires into your reality and live a life you want to live because you are being true to yourself. A lot of people don't live the life that they want to live because they are not true to themselves. They don't want to be honest with themselves. When you're honest with yourself, people will judge you, but you have to understand that those judgments don't mean shit. Excuse my French, but it doesn't. Because there's this quote, I don't know who the man is exactly, but there's this quote and it says opinions are a confession of character. So the same thing with judgments because it's still an opinion. It's like you're showing me how you really feel about yourself. The things that people judge you on is what they wish they could do. Always remember that. The things that people are judging you on are things that resonate with them in some way that they actually want to do, but they're judging you because they're too scared to try it. And the thing about these people is like they have no shame. Like they'll judge you and turn around and do the exact same thing as you and come in your face doing it, and they don't have any shame because they lack self-awareness. They're so afraid of people judging them, but the irony is that they judge other people so harshly because they're afraid of being themselves. And when they see somebody else being themselves, they judge them because they feel like, well, that's what we're supposed to do. We're all supposed to conform, but let's be honest, conformity sucks. You don't have to conform. Most people aren't even conforming, they're just pretending to because their families or the environments or institutions they are associated with require that of them. You can remain true to yourself. And yes, you are going to receive judgment, but don't let that judgment deter you from living a beautiful life and meeting beautiful people and having beautiful experiences that enrich you. Who cares if people judge you? They're always going to have something to say because they can't do what you're doing. And you'll find that the people who are judging you end up doing what you're doing. Let me tell you something, and I'm going to end this. When I talk about this a lot, but because it's so true. When I first began doing tarot, people thought it was funny. They start doing it as well. And it would be people I would read too, like, they wouldn't take the reading serious. Like, I remember I read this one girl and she was irritated that the reading took like about an hour. And I'm like, what did you expect me to talk about? You paid me to talk to you about this. And it was like, she would walk away from the camera. Her attention span was like horrible. So it's like, why would you book a reading with me and not pay attention? And then that same girl turned around and became a tarot reader, right? She turned around and became a tarot reader. And it ain't nothing wrong with you being inspired by somebody and you see that, "Oh, okay, I wanna do something like that too," but it's the fact that you treated it like it didn't matter. You judged it like, "Ugh." Like, she didn't even want a reading in the first place. Somebody had to offer it to her. So it's the fact that people will judge things prematurely and then turn around and do the same thing that you're doing. And how I knew that she was a reader is because she started posting it on Snapchat. And I'm just like, "But you didn't pay attention when I was reading you." Like, I really don't get people. And we just have to let people be like self unaware because that's what it is. You're lacking awareness. You don't know yourself. People who judge really don't even know themselves. So you can't take their judgment seriously because it reveals a lot about them and really nothing about you. And that's so powerful. I say that a lot because people's projections, their judgments, their opinions, it's more to do with them than you. Okay? So that's what I have to say. Like people will judge you and then they'll copy you, but it's because they're afraid to step outside of the box and you're not. People really are jealous of your bravery, but you got to stay true to yourself. And if they don't want to be themselves, that's not your burden to carry, okay? Other people not wanting to be themselves and then judging people because they are, that's on them and it's highly detrimental to try to judge somebody when you could be living your own life, but you're sitting here forcing yourself to conform and be unhappy for the sake of, "I don't want people judging me," but that's the very thing you're doing to people. So don't judge people, okay? Try not to because nobody's perfect, all right? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Mwah. Peace.